Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. I hope you've all had a wonderful day wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Today, we're going to be doing some further exploration of the Cosmos ecosystem. You guys know just how revolutionary I think this concept of Layer 0 is, and how it's really changing how we think and do blockchain. Today, we're going to be exploring and diving into and really telling you about the largest zone, the largest blockchain to come out of the Cosmos ecosystem, Osmosis, which essentially is very focused on being an AMM, a DEX, but a DEX not in the traditional sense of how we see Uniswap as a DApp or SushiSwap as a DApp. A DEX that exists as its own independent blockchain and has its own independent features and actually could enable smart contract capability. This is a very, very interesting project. It's had its fair share, and it's important for me to get this out of the way of its fair share of issues. It had a lot of issues related to the Luna collapse. We know that not only was Luna's price and its ecosystem bolstered by UST, a lot of the Cosmos ecosystem was actually and utilized UST as a stablecoin. With that collapse, of course, we saw lots of liquidity drained from many projects, not just on Cosmos, but across the board. We also saw, funds collapse on the back end of it. And of course, Osmos was a casualty in this and actually saw a lot of its total value locked, drained. Also, they did have a hack where essentially there was a bug that was exploited. And they did come out and say, look, this was totally our fault. This is on us. We're going to make things right. So the team, in my opinion, I have quite a soft spot for. I think that they are very philosophical in many ways and actually do care about their users and their product. And they really do have a long-term vision for Osmosis. So we're going to dive into it. I'm going to tell you what Osmosis is. Again, this is not a coin that I'm advocating to buy or sell at this point. I personally am not buying Osmosis here. And I want to talk to you about, this is the Osmosis chart and this is the Uniswap chart in the early days. And I think there are similarities here. And I think if Cosmos becomes as big as I believe it does, something like Osmosis, which has core utility, to the Osmos ecosystem, it is where you can go and you can pick up altcoins that exist and don't exist on centralized exchanges yet. You can also provide liquidity. You can stake. The staking, however, in regards to the inflation of the token, will earn you a negative yield. I think the staking is around about 24-ish%, and the actual inflation of Osmosis supply is significantly more. They do have a thirdening where they essentially cut the supply by 1/3 every so often, or the distributed supply, I should say. Or the inflation, really, I should say. So there's lots of interesting things with the tokenomics. But let's just start things off very simply by taking a look at Osmos, where it is today. It's currently ranked 211 in terms of cryptocurrencies via market cap. It is sat at $1.17 and has a market cap of $331 million. At one point, this was well over $1 billion, and this had a lot to do, like I say, with the USD stablecoin. Its all-time high was around about $11.20. And like I say, it's now currently trading at a tenth of that. But I think this coin could have a lot of potential. Again, certainly if I think that Cosmos takes off in the way that I believe it will. So it's the Interchain Liquidity Lab. You can swap, earn, and build on the leading decentralized Cosmos exchange. So it is indeed that. The success of Osmos, I feel like it's very correlated, even though they're an independent blockchain. The success of Osmos, I feel like, is very correlated to the success of Cosmos and how it does. So it's the largest interchain DEX. It's got a total value unlocked of $167 million. It's got a 24-hour trading volume of 13.4 million and 100+ interchain transactions. So it is actually a very used blockchain. This was an interesting tweet I thought I would pull up. In terms of daily fees acquired, Osmosis Zone ranks 15 over 7 days. It ranks 13. So it's gaining some traction. And I think this has to do with a number of reasons. Some of the yields that you can make on Osmosis. We could do a video diving into how to use Osmo and yield farm it for anybody that's interesting. I'm not really doing a lot of yield farming at the moment as a result of where I think the overall market is. And as a result of the fact that I think everything's going to become cheaper. So it doesn't make sense for me to hold small altcoins that can be very volatile and get absolutely destroyed due to lack of liquidity just to make some gains here and there. This is potentially a coin that I will look to accumulate once it's cheaper, basically. And that is not financial advice. That's just my own opinion. So you can see it's very much set up like an ordinary DEX. You can swap, of course, Atom really being a native token, and Osmos is the kind of token that powers this blockchain. You can see you can swap for really any of the tokens that are involved with the Cosmos ecosystem. So any of these zones, not only can you swap with any of these zones, you can gain exposure to Bitcoin, Ethereum via it being wrapped, and actually pools being made up on here. If we go and take a look at pools, you can see just all the pools that are involved. You can see the APRs that you do get. You know, you could look at potentially stable coins for people that maybe are looking at farms. But some of the highest, they've got some ridiculously high APRs. You know, you can see for USDC Osmosis, you're getting 72% APR. Some of these are probably going to be higher, but they'll be in smaller, riskier coins. You can also actually stake if you do not wish to provide. We'll get rid of that. If you do not wish to provide, I don't want to bring up my Kepler wallet there, guys. Forgive me. If you do not wish to provide liquidity, you can actually stake your Osmos and you will earn a reward. But for me, I think this token is going to go down significantly more than what the APR is giving you. And not only that, the token itself is very inflationary, just like many of these sort of new Cosmos chains. But the reason that we're really diving into a lot of these Cosmos projects is just simply because of how early they are and how early Cosmos is in terms of its ecosystem. We haven't had that Ethereum DeFi summer yet, or that Ethereum DeFi moment. I think that's to come. And I think many of these projects are going to really do very well on the back end of it. This is an overview of Osmos and sort of the liquidity and volume in a 24-hour period. So we can see here that the liquidity currently sat in Osmos, so the value locked up within the protocol, is $209 million. The daily volume is 4.9 million. Over the week, it's around about similar. And this is kind of, you know, we do get spikes. DeFi largely, you can see how it's fallen off a cliff. This is really based on the sort of market conditions, and in a market where everything doesn't just go up, people are a lot more sort of wary with buying things and yield farming and doing this and that and the other. Like I said at the start of the video, one reason I'm not buying or farming on Osmos at the moment is simply because I think a lot of the tokens on it, barring the stable coins, but never say never, we saw what happened with UST, are going to go down significantly in price. It doesn't make sense for me to hold them and get the APR if I can actually you know, get them at a cheaper price and then benefit from that APR later on down the road. Talking about Osmos's price, there's not really a great deal that we can derive from this chart. One thing that we do know is it had an all-time high of, you know, around about that 11, where it was kind of stable. You had a lot of price action around about $11, $10. Is it going to get back up there? Well, I think it largely depends on Cosmos's success and its adoption. I think there is a real need for a DEX. For myself personally, you know, if I want to buy small altcoins that are on Osmos or built upon the Cosmos network, then what I can actually do is use this DEX to get access to them. And in actual fact, you can actually, in some cases, get a better yield for your underlying tokens via providing liquidity or doing various other things with this DEX than potentially just staking. So there are real yield opportunities there as well. But for me at the moment, way too much of a risk. They have some good tokenomics, like I say, in regards to the thirdening, which is essentially where the inflation gets cut by 1/3. And with quite a lot of Cosmos projects, you have this kind of dying off of the inflation after this kind of high inflationary period. Very similar to how Bitcoin started. I feel like there are a lot of similarities philosophically with the Bitcoin community and the Osmos community and the Cosmos community as a whole, which I really, really like. So I wanted to pull this up. This is how Uniswap started. And I can actually see quite a lot of similarities here between Osmos and Uniswap. So for those of you that don't know what Uniswap is the largest DEX on top, or at one point one of the largest dApps, it still may be, on top of Ethereum. This is the largest dApp on top of Cosmos. And like I say, if we get that succession for Cosmos that I think we may, are we potentially, given how these have both started in a similar fashion, going to see a repeat of what took place with Uniswap. It is, you know, the potential is there, in my opinion. You know, do we see something like this? Just to pause this here, you can see how we're very much doing a similar thing right now, guys. You know, you're kind of coming up, it's dead, it's very quiet. I think we are going to pop our head up at some point, and I think that's when the cryptocurrency market as a whole turns around. And then certainly there's a lot of spotlight, as we've seen on Cosmos, more so than potentially other altcoins out there. But we all know the story for what happened with Uniswap once it got a bit of sort of traction behind it. Bearing in mind as well that Uniswap actually gave out their tokens for free at one point. I was involved in the airdrops. It actually turned into quite a lot of money. But potentially, I think you could be looking at something like this, maybe taking place for Osmosis, depending on how much traction it gains. Not financial advice, just something that I'm personally keeping my eye on. If we enter a new bull market like the one that we've previously seen, you could definitely see price action like this. How high, I really don't know. Is it going to go back to new all-time highs? Potentially. There's a lot more of the supply out than there was here. But we will see. You know, it's still got a high inflationary model. Does it do something like this? Maybe. It's anybody's guess. Not my personal advice to be buying here. I'm not a financial advisor. I can't financially advise anybody. All I can say is personally, I am not buying here, but I will be later on down the line. I think, I'm not 100% sure. This was just a video to really get you guys familiar with the main DEX within the Cosmos ecosystem. Tell you a little bit about it, show you a little bit about how it works, and then sort of let you guys make your own decisions. And that's all I've got for you in this video. If you've enjoyed this content, a like is always very much appreciated. So is a comment, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks a lot for watching, guys.